Hi, it's Don Southerton, and we're back with another episode of Everything Korea. For 2021, I'd like to try to change the format a little bit. Now, if we just think back for a moment, many of you I've worked with for over the years, many of you I've met on different trips and travels, but my model over the years has been to spend time on site with clients. Many times I'm in the building for a day, a couple days, a week, and I'm able to go and sort of have office hours. And they're always informal, and they're always an opportunity for people to stop by, for me to see them in the hallway, maybe to have scheduled appointments. But it's really an opportunity over the years that I've been able to really share one-on-one with many of you, sort of my insights, what I'm thinking at that time. I'm able to sort of answer your questions and give feedback on issues. So I'd like to sort of move to that type of format. And so I'm looking for your comments, so please share those so we can get back to you on that. But also, I'd like to sort of maybe every week or timely opportunities share with really what's on my mind. So last week, or my last episode, I talked a lot about CES and the trends for 2021. And it's really sort of a new, interesting dynamic. And what I'd like to share today is really, and I'm going to sort of pull up a couple charts today. And so the first of them, and this is a really excellent chart. Some of you have seen these over the years. This one is the latest one, and it's by Mark Amblard, and I hope I'm not just destroying your name, Mark, but it's also to Utopia. I'll put the website of where you can access it. But I really much enjoy these because it's really sort of sharing what we call the ecosystems out there. And I know I've worked in many sectors over the years. I've worked a lot in retail, golf sector, major development projects in Korea, food industry, but a lot in the automotive sector. And, it's really sort of, I think all sectors are going through a lot of transition. But if I was to single out today, the really one of the things, of course, we're seeing is sort of this autonomous vehicle ecosystem. And again, this chart is the landscape. And I think it's pretty interesting because, it's the AV applications up on top here. Fleet, goods delivery, shuttles, and robotaxi. And then all the other aspects of this are all support. And too often, it's sort of like the iceberg, where many of us in a sector or industry, we're really looking at what's the obvious part. But those who are really insiders and really studying the topic and really on the cutting edge, they realize that there's just so much below that. And I don't care what industry you're in, but it really applies. And even more so for Korean-facing business, sometimes we're working with teams who are only looking at that sort of top of the iceberg, and they don't realize all the layers below that. Much of my job over the years has been educating on all those other factors. Now more than ever, of course, as I'm working a lot in sort of these new spaces of technology. And that really brings us up to really sort of my main topic today. And again, I try to keep these presentations short because I know most of you are very busy. And quite frankly, if I'm prompting some thinking, I hope you would reach out to me and we could further that talk. But again, I do have my notes here with me today. And I've pointed this out to many of you in the past, but if we look at this chart right now, that it's been sort of in the past, and really up until almost recently, human understanding is pretty much stayed pace with new thinking. So what do I mean by that? I mean that over the centuries, as ideas are coming forward, whether it was global exploration, if it was new technologies coming in at the time, it was easy for us as humans to sort of gather all that information and process it. And more so for those of us, if it's a field that you're in, and let's say maybe it was maybe the automotive industry or the golf industry or the food industry, and you're in those sectors, you were pretty much staying pace very easily with the trends going on. Things have changed. This is more the reality today. And if you can see here in my chart, human understanding has sort of continued at that pace. And for many of you in your own sectors, and for me, quite frankly, I'm a student, I'm studying, I'm teaching, so I'm staying sort of pace like that. But the new thinking has just curved up and skyrocketed. And the gap, this gap in there, has never been greater. So what does that mean to you? Well, I do have a little nuance to that, and there is sort of a good side to that. And I would say that, and I've added the second line here this way. That second one now, next to the word gap, we are at the time in human evolution, and that we're accelerating the ability for us to absorb information. And for many of us, that's because we're doing seminars, we're in discussions, we're drilling deep. So, we're able to sort of, more than ever in history, instead of like sort of a learning curve where we're sort of on a constant, our ability to learn information has accelerated too. And again, if I go back here, if you just look at this ecosystem, you can see even though you might be a fast learner, you might be on the cutting edge, but how do you absorb all this? How do you absorb it? And that's the challenge ahead. Now, for me personally, I'm spending a great deal of time in study. I attend many of the webinars on all the new cutting edge. I'm very engaged in many of these things. And so, as a friend of mine told me a couple years ago, if you were in the auto industry and you stepped out, and I don't care if you're auto industry on your marketing side, on the product side, on the distribution side, on the design side, and this would parallel other industries too, golf, many other sectors, food sector. If you step out for a year, you're probably going to still stay relatively relevant. But my friend said that if you're out for about a year and a half, you're completely lost. So a few months later, I was with one of the leading LiDAR semiconductor engineers, a veteran of the industry. And I was mentioning that about the automotive industry. And he's there, well, in my industry, which was the semiconductor industry, if you're out of it for 6 months, you're lost. And I would say probably the same thing for many of us in these technologies. So again, to sort of sum up this week, pace moving forward, and that will be moving forward in 2020 will be greater than ever. Because of COVID and limitations in traveling, I'm not able to stop out and visit everyone as much as I would, but I am still going to be available. But please keep in mind that, we have to keep learning, we have to keep studying, we have to keep trying to learn as much as we can on these new technologies. For every field that you're in, you're only as valuable as you stay relevant, and that takes time and study. So resting on your laurels, in the past maybe you could do that, but again, today it's just going to be a entirely different world. So with that, it's great talking to you again. Please reach out to me. If you're not already subscribing to the YouTube, please do. That gets me, it gets it right out to you, and that you get it as soon as I put it out. So until next time, this is Don Silverton wishing you all the best.